Welcome back. Today we're highlighting adaptive CrossFit, and we're fortunate to be joined by Kevin Ogar, adaptive CrossFit champion, co-owner of Wheel WOD, and the owner and head coach of CrossFit WatchTower. And Kevin, thank you for taking some time for us.
Thanks for having me.
So Kevin, could you tell us a little bit about your background as an athlete?
I started playing sports probably before I could remember it, between like soccer, swimming, baseball, that kind of stuff that you normally do as a kid. Got really into basketball and track in high school. So those were my two main sports then, but continued to like swim throughout all high school. Got into college and got roped into rugby. Then I played 5 years of rugby for the University of Missouri. And then after I was done with that, I moved out to Colorado and played for the Glendale Raptors for rugby for a few years. Um, During that time, like I started lifting barbells when I was like 12 years old, 12, 13 years old in my parents' basement. They bought me a weight set and started doing that, fell in love with training. Got really big into powerlifting throughout all the other sports I was playing. Did that through the first part of college, where I was introduced to CrossFit. I was doing personal training, got introduced to CrossFit by one of my bosses. Absolutely fell in love with that, and decided that being really strong, but also having trouble walking upstairs wasn't my jam. And so kind of coincided with me starting to play rugby. So I got a lot fitter through CrossFit and started playing rugby, and did both of those up until I was playing for the Raptors, and realized that it was really hard to try to commit to competing in CrossFit and competing in rugby at the same time at a high level. Something had to give. And so chose CrossFit, continued to compete in that and coach that for multiple years. 2014, I was competing in a competition out in California. And because of an unsafe setup, I had a ricochet barbell hit me in the back and paralyzed me from T11 down. And from there, continued to test out sports, really just kind of fell back in love with CrossFit again. And so we started pushing the adaptive CrossFit stuff. Also got back into powerlifting, competed for Team USA, I think 2015 to 2019, all while still doing CrossFit and trying to help that kind of stuff. And then CrossFit picked up the adaptive side of the sport at the CrossFit Games. The running joke is I tried for a long time. My wife's also a CrossFit Games champion, and she won before I did. I ended up winning my division in 2022, which is seated without hip, for the adaptive CrossFit Games. And then I retired because that's all I needed. Now I just work on the back end of things.
And I understand that you helped form Wheel WOD for adaptive athletes.
So me, John Prescott, and Chris Stoutenberg are the three owners of Wheel WOD. And Stouty is the founder, or Chris Stoutenberg, we call him Stouty. He's the founder, and he worked on that while I was still doing my competitive thing. And then I started working with him on all that around 2015, 2016. The growth of adaptive CrossFit has been pretty cool to watch. I remember me and Stouty getting together and just kind of like throwing workouts back and forth. And there was like two or three of us who were doing it at the time, and that we were all in wheelchairs. We were just trying to figure out how to stay fit and enjoy our fitness from a wheelchair. And then people started to recognize what we were doing because we were putting it out there. And so, we'd have someone, who has an upper extremity amputation or a lower extremity amputation or this neurological condition we've never heard of before. And they kept bringing this stuff to us and being like, hey, we want to join in on this. And so, it really kind of started for me, with the CrossFit Open in 2014, after I got hurt, and Stouty giving us some adaptations from the open workouts that CrossFit put out. And I think there was like 3 to 5 of us who did all those together and just kind of had our own fun little competition. Kind of just exploded from there. We went from just having fun in our own gyms and talking trash to each other to putting on the Wheel WOD games every year, and in the hopes of like CrossFit eventually seeing us doing this and thinking like, oh, like the adaptive stuff's cool, we should pick that up, which is what's happening now.
That's great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your gym?
So I own CrossFit WatchTower. We're in Inglewood, Colorado, and I'm an old school CrossFit guy. I think CrossFit's all about the community. The methodology is awesome, but the people that come into your gym are what make it special. So we kind of do our best to have one giant community of people who just enjoy fitness and working out, regardless of if they have a disability or not. So we have all of our normal classes, and in any normal class, we could have a couple brain injuries, a few people in wheelchairs, a few able-bodied people, lower extremity amputee, and upper extremity. Like it could be just about anything.
So it really seems like the community aspect of all this is really important to you. What are the benefits of community exercise that you see?
I think it's one of the most important things we could do right now with is as kind of divided as everyone is. Like I've seen people from that would, if you saw them in a bar, they'd probably punch each other in the face, come in here and work out right next to each other and become close friends and get a little bit more perspective on someone else. So I think, some shared suffering, some shared hardships within the gym, which are controlled and measurable and kind of fun. Keep people into fitness, keep people feeling better, give them a sense of community, give them a sense of belonging. That's probably one of the biggest things we've heard out of the adaptive wave is that we have all these people with disabilities who never felt like they belonged anywhere, and now they're part of a gym, whether it be mine or John Prescott's out in Raleigh or Stoudy's up in Canada. They're part of a gym that not only do they feel welcome and part of the community, but they feel welcome and part of a community with people who are completely different from them. Walking on two legs, have all four limbs, but still part of the same community and still feel like they belong. So I think that community aspect, that the measure of accountability and a little bit of trash talking goes a long way to keep people interested in what we're doing.
So do people seek out your expertise when they're trying to make their gym more adaptable or when they're trying to learn how to work with adaptive athletes?
I help on the education side on a few fronts. Like I'll call and I'll talk to those gyms. I also work for a company called the Adaptive Training Academy, and we put on like an adaptive, basically a seminar certification for anyone that wants to work with adaptive athletes. We travel around the U.S. and the world putting on those seminars to make sure that anyone that wants to work with adaptive athletes has at least a base knowledge to start doing so and can build from there. And that's a really cool course, and do that with a bunch of gyms across the U.S. and hopefully eventually I won't be needed anymore and everyone will just be working with adaptive athletes and everyone will forget who I am.
Well, I doubt anybody's going to forget about you anytime soon. It seems like you've made an impact on a lot of people's lives.
Appreciate that. The spotlight is not anywhere I wanted to be initially in my life, but you do what you're supposed to.
So big question. You were working your way towards becoming this top tier CrossFit athlete, and then your life steered in a different direction. How do you feel about becoming this sort of a trailblazing adaptive athlete and coach now?
Man, I do get asked this question a lot, and it's a pretty simple answer. I think people want me to be all weird about it, but it's a pretty simple answer. I love being an athlete. I was supposed to die. I didn't. God kept me on this earth for a reason. I wouldn't change a thing about the way my life is right now to go back to where I was. I've been able to reach more people from a wheelchair and help more people from a wheelchair than I ever would standing on two legs. And so God's really blessed me in that sense. So like, it's pretty simple. This is pretty great. Like, yeah, disabilities can be hard, but they can also be a great wedge in the door to start really helping other people. And I don't know, I think if your goal in life isn't to help those around you, you probably suck, and so that's what I do. I use what God's given me to help as many people as I can while I'm on this earth. That's about it.
Kevin, really appreciate you taking some time for us today.
Thanks for having me. Absolute pleasure.
And everyone, please stick around. We'll be right back with the owner of Neuse River CrossFit.